now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Actress Tia Mowry claims that she is no longer speaking to her twin sister Tamera. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue.
Her life right now, and Tia is doing Tia.
Tia's returning to reality TV.
I know. I didn't know until I found out with the rest of the world.
Any chance we'll see you on there?
She didn't ask me. So I take that as...
Shot.
No. No, she's like, this is my story,
Right.
and, I can only respect that.
Are you and Adam trying to set her up on any dates or anything? Are you guys playing Cupid at all?
I feel like she doesn't want any of our input right now. And I can only respect that. So I think she is doing her.
You know her better than anybody, so you'd be
No,
like, I'm not going.
so I'm respecting that.
Now, Tia Mowry and her twin sister, Tamera, became stars on the sitcom Sister Sister, and they were close for many years and basically built families together when they were much younger. However, as Tia has entered into her mid-40s, it looks like she's trying to put distance between herself and her two previous families. Her family that she had with her husband she had been married to for 14 years, Corey Hardrick, who she divorced about 2 years ago, and was also putting distance between herself and her sister, who she was close to for most of her life. Now, according to some reports, Tia Mowry is saying that she's putting distance between herself and Corey Hardrick and her sister because she wants to be able to make her own choices. However, when I take a critical look at the choices that Tia Mowry is making, they definitely show me that she is definitely in a pattern and profile of behavior that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, of a woman in crisis. And she doesn't see how this pattern is taking her on the road to a paradigm of failure. I go in depth on in my book why 70% of black women are single. Now, Tia Mowry basically is looking to break away from her family and looks to be her own independent woman. And according to her, she says that she wants to be able to make her own choices over her own life because she's basically had other people making those choices for her, whether it be her parents as related to her being an actress or having to have the advice of a sibling in her sister Tamera, or having to submit to the leadership and authority of a husband like Corey Hardrick. And these are the foundations for her new reality show where she's talking about Tia Mowry's second act. But when I look at Tia Mowry's second act, it may possibly be a road to a final act where she might wind up on several roads as related to the paradigm of failure. She might wind up on a road as related to the paradigm of failure as related to winding up in a place called Bus Downtown, or she may wind up in a straitjacket, or she may possibly wind up with one foot on a banana peel and the other on a grave. These are the whole three outcomes that could happen for Tia Mowry as she's wanted to get her independence by graduating from marriage and looking to enter the world of dating. And as she's entered into this world of being this so-called independent woman, which is basically a feminist indoctrinated woman, she wants to go out here on her own and be her so-called own woman. But sadly, what's happening to Tia Mowry is I see that this woman, it doesn't see where she's going on this road, because when it comes to women like Tia Mowry, what I see is that she doesn't appreciate the blessings God has given her as related to the abundant life he has provided for her. And because she doesn't see the abundant life that God has provided for her, she is willing to throw all of that away, hoping to walk down the road of the feminist indoctrinated woman, not understanding that the road of the feminist indoctrinated woman is not a road where you're gonna find happiness. No, it's a road where you're gonna be miserable in the company of other older women. And like other older women, like Judge Greg Mathis's wife, who filed for divorce from her husband, Tia Mowry thinks that she's going to find a better life, and find possibly a better deal. But what she doesn't understand is that when it comes to that quest for the better deal, like I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, many women basically find a raw deal, and they don't find any of that happiness that Madison Avenue advertisers and Hollywood movie studios told women they would find in many of the movies and TV shows, where they show you older women going out here and divorcing their husbands and finding so-called happiness. No, that scripted entertainment basically tells you a bunch of lies that don't work in real life. And sadly, Tia Mowry has been seeing that reality basically hit her in the face, as she called herself entering the world of dating at 45 years old. And as she entered the world of dating at 45 years old, she basically was given the shock of her life when she found out she was no longer the attractive young hottie that guys were out here chasing for during her sister days. No, most of those men who she found in the dating marketplace, like the guy she met on an online dating who had a gold grill, basically are the bottom of the barrel, because usually when it comes to the social marketplace, most people find their partners when they are at a young and at the most 30 years old. They usually find the person they want to marry, and usually women who are out here and they are over 30 years old, they basically have no real options at that point, because most of the people pick their partners early, as young as about 17, 18 years old. So most of those men who Tia Mowry passed on wound up getting taken away. So there's no quality guy out there that she thinks is out there, and she didn't see how she was blessed when Corey Hardrick went and she met Corey Hardrick, because God put her and Corey Hardrick together. And because she couldn't see how God had blessed her with a good husband at a young age, Tia wanted to return to the social marketplace, not understanding what was left in the social marketplace as related to males and not men were old Pookie, old Ray Ray, and like Martin put on his show, Romy Rome. And these guys are basically in the social marketplace because they are not in a place where they're established, because usually most women will get a man who's on his way to building himself up, or a guy who's already established, and they'll get that man right off the market as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Tia Mowry bought into the narratives of feminism, which told her that one, that she had all the time in the world, and two, told her that that men and women were the same. Unfortunately, because she bought into these feminist ideals, this is what's got her out here living this quest to again be this independent woman, not following the principles of the Bible her mother and father taught her. Now, Tia Mowry and her mother and father taught her all about the whole way the world works as related to God's order, and told her about the role of a woman being a helpmeet and a support to a man. And again, when a woman goes out here and gets married, she forsakes mother and father and to cleave to her husband. But Tia Mowry walked away from those principles of the gospel to go out here to be the independent woman. And as she's become the independent woman, she's been wandering in the wilderness without her support in her husband, who is her protection and covering, wandering in the wilderness without the support of her sister, and wandering in this wilderness buying into feminist ideals that you can go out here and do it better all by yourself. But God never meant for a woman to be by herself. No, God did not mean for any woman to be by herself. And sadly, what's happening to Tia Mowry is that she's thinking she can be out here by herself, but without that support of a sister, without that guidance of a husband, this spiritually lost woman doesn't see how much more lost she's becoming, because to be without your family is a bad thing, because now you're in a place where you're going to be exploited. And that's what's going to happen to Tia Mowry on this reality show, Tia Mowry's second act, where she thinks that she's going to show how much better she's going to do because she's got her money. Because this is what feminists go out here and think. Feminists think that because they've got lots of money and they've got a big house, they're doing good. But economically, you're not really doing that well. And spiritually, you're not doing that well because you're in a place of emotional vulnerability. And when you're in that place of emotional vulnerability, this is where these women go from having lots of money to winding up in the poorhouse. Moreover, they wind up in a place where they start becoming a laughingstock to society. This is where Tia Mowry is right now, because when she was married to Corey Hardrick, she was in a blessed place. She was in a blessed place where she basically had a husband who was in God's order, a husband who was on point, a husband who was doing right, and that husband basically had her as a respectable wife. Again, wife is an esteemed title in God's order. To be a wife is something that is esteemed, and she walked away from this by drinking the feminist Kool-Aid, and as she drank this feminist Kool-Aid, this whole feminist mindset has estranged her from the people who love her, estranged her from the people who cared about her, and she's thinking that these people out here are going to care about her, but no, those people just want to exploit her, and that's what's going to happen on this new reality show, because now that she has no one around her, what's happening to Tia Mowry is that she basically is out here on her own, and these people basically, again, want to put her on television to not show the realities of an independent woman, but to make her bad comedy in having a good laugh at her expense as she stumbles and bumbles about, because the social marketplace, the reality of it is that when it comes to the social marketplace, women like Tia Mowry are basically have the value of $100 food stamp without the book. And when it comes to Tia Mowry, she's basically seen as a bust down, seen as a complete bust down, because basically this woman is one that no man can trust. Now, Tia Mowry wants to believe that she can find a guy who makes more money than Corey Hardrick and caught up in feminist hypergamy, thinking she can monkey branch to another man, but no man is going to want to deal with her, who is a quote-unquote high-value man, or any man of character, because she basically destroyed her marriage and broke that trust. Now, no man of God would want to deal with her because she divorced her husband, and any man who would get with her would be committing adultery, and no other man would want to deal with her in the social marketplace, because this woman is shown that she can't be trusted. She's one of those women who basically will get with you and then possibly yank the rug out from under you when somebody else comes along who makes $5 more. So Tia Mowry basically is thinking, oh, she's on her own out here, going to be this independent woman. Her head has been gassed up by demons to believe that she's going to be doing well. But I don't see where Tia Mowry is going to do well. No, I basically see a woman who's basically in a downward spiral, and in a downward spiral where she's possibly losing hold of reality, because as she's alone, she's basically sitting by herself, and I don't know if she's looking to break away from people or having a psychotic break, because when I listen to Tia Mowry's statements, they don't sound like those of a healthy woman. No, those statements such as, "I'm graduating from marriage," sound Arkham certified. They sound like the statements of an individual who's had a psychotic episode, because marriage is considered by God to be the ultimate ideal for women, and considered by many women to be the ultimate accomplishment, and there's no place to graduate from marriage. No, the only people who think they're graduating from marriage are extreme radical feminists who believe, oh, I can go out here and be on my own, which goes diametrically opposed to the God that Tia Mowry serves, because according to God, he said it is not good for a man or a woman to be alone, but he said it's not good for a man to be alone. And again, when he talked about man, he talked about the species of man. It is not good for a man to be alone. This is why he made a helpmeet for a man. And again, a woman, if it's not good for the man to be alone, it's not good for the woman to be alone, because a woman being alone and emotional makes impulsive decisions like the one Eve made when she was beguiled by the serpent. And that decision basically plunged Eve and all of mankind into sin. And the same thing with Tia Mowry. She's basically been beguiled by these serpents of Hollywood to believe that she doesn't need to submit to the leadership of a black husband. She doesn't need to be under the leadership and authority of a husband who looked out for her, nor does she need the sound doctrine of a sister, even though she's married to a white man. She doesn't need to be under the sound doctrine of a sister or be in the presence of a functional family that basically is, again, showing that she, even though Tamera is married to a white man, she's still following the standards of God. And this is what Tia Mowry is showing me, again, how she's possibly having this break as related to reality, and again, possibly is possessed by some sort of demon or has some sort of psychotic issue. This is what I believe is happening to Tia Mowry, who thinks, oh, I've got my money. Well, from my books, The Woman Crisis, I did a lot of research on women who, had lots of money. And as they had all of their money, these women wound up miserable in their own company because they found money couldn't buy them love. And since they didn't love themselves, they just were sitting there in their houses, that basically looked like Mrs. Havisham's house in the book Great Expectations, as they continued to have their unrealistic expectations, over relationships. And as they had unrealistic expectations over relationships, these women basically wound up in their homes all by themselves with a codependent son husband who eventually got tired of them, a daughter they wound up competing against, and wound up completely alone and without God, and like the children of Israel, wound up wandering in this wilderness until they died. And that's basically where Tia Mowry is headed at Bust Downtown in Apartment 8D, where she's basically in Bust Downtown, basically fearing her own mortality and basically trying to overcompensate by acting out, but knowing that basically no man would want her even at 50, 60, 70, even 80% off the original social marketplace price, because she just can't be trusted. I mean, Tia Mowry basically doesn't see how she's basically being made into the punchline of a cruel joke, basically being made into a cruel joke, similar to what happened to Carrie in that movie, Carrie, where she's on her way to thinking, oh, I've got a second act in this reality show, but this reality show is just like the prom in that Carrie went to, where she thought she was going to be arriving and elevated to her social status, but didn't see how white supremacy basically was making her into a punchline. That's what Tia Mowry doesn't see, because what they're doing with this show is basically making this biracial black woman into a joke, and sadly she can't see how those on the top are getting a last laugh at her expense in a sitcom she doesn't even know that she's starring in. Now, if you want to learn how to break out of the paradigm of failure that Tia Mowry is currently in, you can read my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Why 70% of Black Women Are Single at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn how the road that led to Tia Mowry becoming a feminist that led to her becoming a feminist and taking her off the road to womanhood and identifying the behaviors that led to her being on this dysfunctional path, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com, along with Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. You can find that book at Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target, too. And if you'd like to see me make more videos taking celebrities to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Come on down to Bust Downtown, where you can get a date for 50, 60, 70, even 80% off the original social marketplace price. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.